Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find the show on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs. You can find us on Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever else you grow yourself through podcasts. The reason I say that is, again, transcripts from the episodes are available on Apple Podcasts and Podbean right now. I'm getting them integrated into all the other ones, but it's just taking a little time. That is what the audience, you guys as entrepreneurs or growing entrepreneurs, ask for. The educational pieces be captured in a way that you guys could quick get to the episodes and find what you're looking for. So that is all in there for you guys as we move forward. With that being said, I have Diana with us from Velve Chocolate out of Los Angeles, California. How are you, Diana?
I am good. Thank you.
I'm good. I'm looking at your website right now. I'm trying not to eat the pistachio thing that's going on in front of my face. Oh my gosh. I love pistachios. This is amazing. Blown away by what you do. You call my attention on Instagram for sure. Let's talk about your story, your talent, because what you do is not easy. There's layering. You've got all sorts of goodness wrapped up in different layers of sweets. But I'm going to give you the mic. Diana, let's talk about your story, how you grew up, what led you into Velve Chocolate.
Awesome. Thank you. So what led me into Velve Chocolate? I always say the story and people are always, they're like, oh, okay. So it's really funny. I always say I ended up in Velve Chocolate by accident, and that's literally exactly what happened. I have always been an entrepreneur. I've dabbled into different industries, but I've always been usually around e-commerce, and I never actually worked inside of a kitchen. I never really cooked growing up, or it's actually more of my sister's thing and my husband's thing. My husband's a chef, my sister's a pastry chef, and I was just the business person on the side who did cosmetics and e-com, and I did drop shipping stores, but never ever did I actually get into the food industry until Velve Chocolate. And the way that happened was I was a content creator as well. So one morning I got up, saw this Dubai chocolate viral thing going on, and I was like, you know what? It's a good way to get engagement. I'm a content creator for different types of brands, so this would boost my engagement and my following. And when I put out the video of my attempt to make this viral chocolate bar, I everyone started messaging me and was like, wait, yours looks really good. Why don't you sell it? And in all honesty, I shut everyone down and I was saying, look, I'm already so busy with all these brands. I don't even think I could have the time. I don't even know how to make chocolate. Like, I don't even know how to temper chocolate. The basics of working, with chocolate. And then I got so many messages. I was like, you know what? Here, I'm going to use this also again to boost my engagement. I'm going to do a giveaway. And I did a giveaway of 6 chocolate bars, and the winner was very happy, and everybody else was very upset. So I told myself, okay, you know what? I'll open orders. I'm only going to open orders for 2 days. And, whoever gets the chocolate gets the chocolate. Whoever doesn't, I think this is where I'm going to end it. And I did your most basic Google Forms. I didn't even have a website or anything people could have ordered off of. I literally put out a Google form, and within 2 days, I had 234 orders. And that's when I was like, maybe I'm good at this. And that's literally how Velve Chocolate was born. And throughout, I hired a chocolate teacher to teach me the basics of chocolate. And until now, I do all sorts of courses and master classes. I'm actually flying to Sweden in May for a huge master class from 2 of my favorite chocolatiers. And I realized I actually had a passion and love for something that I never even dabbled into. So if it was never for that video, I would have never really understood what it is I'm good at. And in the end, we understood I'm good at recipe creation because now we have 7 different types of chocolate bars, all of which the recipes have been created by me. So that's how it started.
Well, and
about 6 months ago.
Well, yeah, let's talk about this because you have a lot of branding, packaging, the display, the grab, the social media. It's come together very quickly, probably God gave you a lot of skills, or life gave you a lot of skills that armed you for this very moment. I think that that's what's going on here. You break it down into two profiles. You break it down into an OG profile and a Middle Eastern profile, I would say, based on the boxes that you offer. Talk to me a little, excuse me, guys. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, how did you come up with the bars? How do you come up with the ideas? How do you get the chocolate in the bar? Like, you're not from chocolate, even in the chocolate thing. So the whole thing of getting what you're getting into these chocolate creations is a whole other thing for me. But let's start at the basics for the audience, because I don't want to blow their mind. Like, my mind was just blown visually on looking at the website fully.
Thank you.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why the two profiles. Let's talk about the ideas behind the creations and behind the 7, and let's move forward from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the two large boxes you're talking about are sampler boxes. We have the OG and we have the Middle Eastern. The OG is our original flavors, which means the first 3 flavors I came out with. It was pistachio kanafe. We call it the kanaf said, like enough said. And then we have the knock your bisc off, like knock your socks off, and the tell me more, tell me some more, basically. And those are the 3 main flavors we came out with. The pistachio kanafe is your, Dubai chocolate bar. It's pistachio cream. We import everything. We import the creams from Italy. And then I make pistachio butter on the side, and we toast the kanafe in a very specific way. That's the first flavor. Second one is like Nutella and kanafe, again, toasted very specifically with a few little key secret dazzled ingredients we put in there to give it like this rich hazelnut taste. And then our knock your biscoff, which is layers of biscoff cream, crunchy white chocolate coated breakfast cereals, and like crushed biscoff cookies. Those were our 31st flavors. And so the OG sampler pack has the Knopfstead in milk and dark chocolate, the 2 different varieties. And then it has the knock your biscoff and the Nutella me more. The Middle Eastern, on the other hand, the way the Middle Eastern came about is, since the pistachio kanafe bar was started in the Middle East in Dubai, a very popular Middle Eastern flavor is orange blossom. They have it in many of their desserts. They have rose flavor a lot. And so what better way to actually incorporate a true Middle Eastern flavor than make ashta? And what ashta is it's a cooked cream. So we cook the cream in-house. It is an orange blossom infused cream, and it is slowly cooked with heavy whipping cream and half and half. And that's like true Middle Eastern flavor right there. The problem with the ashta was, how do you get cream inside of chocolate? And that's actually something, when my chocolate teacher came the second time around, when I already had this flavor, she was like, how did you do this? It's like, this, you don't do this. You don't mix cream and you're not able to put cream inside of chocolate. I'm like, well, we did. And she's like, well, I was like, I don't even know, but we did it. And it's actually our most popular flavor. It's called the Ashta La Vista. And it's that cooked ashta cream, but it also has a layer of our pistachio kanafe mix on top. So it's like the best of both worlds. And we call that the Middle Eastern box. It's 2 milk ashta, 2 dark ashta, 2 milk kanafe pistachio, and 2 dark pistachio kanafe. And that's just like all the basic flavors of the Middle East in that one. So we got the OG and we got the Middle Eastern. And that's how those 2 boxes came about. Pasta La Vista was actually the flavor right after our OGs that came along that we curated. But also, all our bars are they're not made to have a very long shelf life, because they are freshly baked and cooked bars. So, for example, we have, I'm sure you saw on the website, we have cake bars that are like birthday cake pop filling. We have the red velve, which is cooked buttercream inside as well. So there's a lot of, they're made to last about a week to 2 weeks and refrigerated for those specific bars. So that's how we come out. We just want to make it natural. We don't want to do anything super, well, nothing super shelf life stable, because that requires a lot of different ingredients that we would end up playing around with, but probably more for bonbons and smaller chocolate varieties. So for now, we're just keeping our stuffed bars. And that's another thing. We do stuffed bars. That's how I differentiate Velve Chocolate from a lot of different chocolate brands. But that's how we came up with everything, literally. Ideas on ideas. We just sit there, brainstorm, like this would taste good, and we start recipe creation.
Okay, so let's rewind back to day one. Now that we've laid out where you are, so there's a journey over the last 6 months. Let's talk about you have 264 orders, I think you said, or something like that. How do you handle it? How do you get them out the door? What do you do next? You've never, number one, made chocolate to prior to that, other than the bar. Now you're having to make chocolate to volume and candy and bars. What do you do when that happens?
So safe to say the first thing I did when I opened the Google form was freak out. The second thing I did was close the Google form. And then the third thing I did was I immediately found a chocolate teacher to come over and teach me the basics of literally that week. She came and I spent 4 hours learning like cocoa butter and tempering chocolate and chocolate shell and what type of molds to use. Like we had a huge master class in the span of like a few hours. And after that, I honestly only had 6 molds to work with. So with 234 orders, I I told them your chocolates will be ready in a week so that I could learn everything and then get it out. And I made the chocolates with those 6 molds. And it took a lot of like molding, waiting, filling, covering, unmolding, putting them in the fridge, unmolding, and then refilling those molds. And what I did was I had the help of family. I had my family members come over. God bless them all. They were so wonderful. They helped me get it out. We pulled like an all-nighter or two and we got everything out the door. And at the time, I didn't even have like all this crazy packaging or anything. I would literally go to this store we have here in downtown LA called Surfa's, and I would literally buy there were these windowed boxes, and I would just buy those windowed boxes and I would just buy the whole entire stock that they had and I would just fill it with those. And we didn't even have our logo at the time, so I could spray like our logo on the chocolates. I would just drizzle like white chocolate on top and like put some pistachios, and that's how we got it out the door. But we did it. And then after that, we were like, okay, there's all, and so we're going to start working towards the website and the branding and the logo and all that good jazz.
When the creativity continues, right? There's strawberries, there's, I think there are raspberries, the
Hmm.
rubies, I'm not sure totally, but I believe I haven't looked at it fully other than the picture. But let's talk about, I don't even, one is you've created something where you're putting something into chocolate and probably forms or in a form where chocolate's got to remain temperature controlled somewhat. I think that's the hard part about cream is you're almost melting the chocolate probably but you're trying to keep the molds intact while you're putting things in there. So there's a lot of, I don't even know how to say it. There's a lot of inputs going into this equation for what you've done. Let's talk about, you do the first one. I want to talk about what made you think of choosing a teacher first and finding someone? Why was that your first response? Is that typically your first response to seek it? I'm curious because I think a lot of people would have tried and maybe failed a few times, but instead you went to a master and became an apprentice. I think there's a big difference in humility there. Why?
Here's the thing. I did try. I did try. I tried prior to that when when I was getting the demand, not yet when I had like the Google form or anything. I tried. I bought and wasted so much time, like so much high quality couverture chocolate to the point where I did it for 4 hours straight. I tried to temper chocolate for 4 hours straight and I failed. And I was like, you know what? And I did that twice. I even had my like pastry chef sister come in and help me, and we were doing everything right. And I didn't understand. Okay, I've watched every single YouTube video on the planet, every single TikTok video, every single Instagram video, like you name it, I watched tempering chocolate. And I did every method, I did every single method I could find. And for some reason, it was not working for me. And here is the little key that people will always leave out in their YouTube videos when they're teaching you how to temper chocolate is how important the type of thermometer you're using is and how important the temperature in the room is. Nobody ever tells you that when they're working inside of the kitchen that they're filming out of, it is 68 to 72 degrees. And if you're someone who's never done this before, you're thinking, oh, well, okay, I could just go into my kitchen and I could just temper chocolate with whatever they're saying. And it's frustrating when you're doing every single thing right and it's not working. So I failed, I failed, I failed, I failed. And then I was like, I would never give my customers anything less than I'm a perfectionist too. And sometimes this is what, bites you in the butt. But I always told myself I will not give anything less than like great quality. So I told myself, you know what, I have to learn this. And that's when I reached out to my teacher. But I always say, whatever it is that you are ever going to, let's say, hire for, or whatever it is that you want to work on, you must know what you're doing first before hiring, for example, someone in that position. You should have some sort of knowledge for what it is you're going to get into, or you're going to hire for, or you're going to try to pursue before doing so. So I knew, hey, this is where I'm capped out at my knowledge. I need someone higher up to come in and teach me. And now I know, and now I teach it to whoever I hire. It's like a little domino effect.
Yeah, I think that I just talked about this on the episode I recorded before yours about honestly, the best thing to do as an entrepreneur is always learn everything, understanding that you're just a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not for us. Like we may use it and we may grow something, but if we can't pass it on or we can't grow the humans to grow our business, we can't do it. It just doesn't exist. And so the ability, and you anchored the question perfectly, which is the ability to seek knowledge and go seek it amongst failure is one important. It's part of picking ourselves back up. It's part of why entrepreneurs succeed over time, is because we eventually educate ourselves enough in enough things through bumping our head because we seek knowledge and not always in the traditional sense. Okay, so that's also needs to be known. We tend to go atypical paths while also typical paths. So there's a lot of underlying scratching our head, educating ourselves while other people are doing whatever, getting off work at 5 p.m. Our day doesn't not only end because everyone's like, oh, you're still running the business, you're dealing with crisis. That's not the only reason. The other reason is there's all of this. We have to grow people. We have to continue to pursue knowledge or our business doesn't remain creative. It doesn't grow and we don't come up with new ideas. Honestly, it's important. We have to always be introducing new things. While there's always the traditional things that'll keep people coming in our stores, it's still the lure of the attraction of the creativity that gives us buzz, that even brings the people back in who still always get the traditional thing and not the thing that's being created for that special. It's part of the way marketing, the human mind, it works. We get attracted to it. Oh, that looks fun. I remember having Velve Chocolate, and, they think they're going to buy the Hasta La Vista, but they just go with their traditional enough said. But that's the whole part of marketing and advertising, guys, is not always about just selling what you have or what's common or giving the customer exactly what they want. It's also luring them in, because a lot of people are like, oh, I really like that, but they come in and they order their safe thing, their traditional thing. But there is the curious, I always try stuff new, but I am in the food business. So, and I grew up in the food business. And my father definitely said to me as we traveled around the world, he's doing his airline catering businesses around the world, just shut the F up and we'll talk about it later if you don't like it. And it's just like, okay, just don't make a scene, don't embarrass anyone, don't embarrass myself, and just try the food. And I learned that most food I do like. And the food I didn't like was just the traditional everyday food. I'm not a huge fan of peas because their texture, I don't mind it in soup, but stuff like that. But there is a world out there, guys, striped tomatoes and dragon tongue beans and all sorts of things. So it's the same thing we're talking about here in food and sweets. There's a whole world out here to be explored. So let's talk about building this business. Now you have something. You realize you can temper chocolate. We've gotten over that hurdle. So now how do you start tackling the additional obstacles? And it's important for the audience to understand the capacity to learn is important. When we seek knowledge all the time as entrepreneurs, one of the things that happens is the capacity to learn grows and the speed at which we learn grows or becomes faster, however you want to look at it. But that's important. So this compounds into putting cream into chocolate, doing other things. So that's why I want to anchor it for the audience. So let's talk about, you've got your orders, you get the orders out, you're like, okay, now you have to decide whether this is actually going to be a business or not, right? You've done the training, you've done what you thought you said you were going to do, you hit that goal, that obstacle. But as we typically do, we set a new goal, right? So what does that look like for you during that time? Get all the orders out. You probably learned some things about shipping.
Yeah. So in the beginning, we only did local pickup orders, and we literally did the pickups from my husband's breakfast cafe. My husband's also a chef and he owns like a chain of breakfast cafes. So we did local pickups from his cafe in Glendale, California every Sunday. And that's how we started. And once we saw that we're getting, more and more of an audience and we're getting more orders and stuff, I actually opened up an Etsy shop. I opened up an Etsy shop, and honestly, it was more of a loss than a profit. That's another learning curve we had right there, because Etsy's fees and stuff, it's just not like a really friendly platform that I would have liked. And I told myself, I've always done e-commerce and I've always done websites. Let's just open our own website. And I put everything into our own website and I drove sales towards just our own website and our brand, and instead of through Etsy. But I did get like around 300 sales on Etsy, and they were all literally 5-star reviews, and people love the chocolate. So now I have my Etsy customers also on our own website. And so I set up our website for us, and that was a whole learning curve too, because I've always had a website where we just ship things out, but now I had to have a website that had like a local store pickup, and I hadn't really done e-com since geez, it had been quite some time. It was like 2019, and a lot of things had changed, especially on the Shopify platform, and a lot of apps had come in and things like that. And it was hard to navigate, but I ended up figuring it out. We had so many orders that we opened local delivery. So now we also have a delivery driver who locally delivers up to 30 miles from Glendale, California on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we changed our pickups to Fridays. So I maneuvered the whole website to get there. And since I was also getting more demand and I was releasing more new flavors, I started hiring my team. So I hired a chocolatier to join our team. I hired packaging, and we moved out of my home kitchen, and we moved out of our home kitchen, and I rented us a smaller kitchen. And now we're at the point where we're also going to expand from the smaller kitchen to a professional grade kitchen. And another learning curve I had was, you know what, I can bake things, I can put them in chocolate, I can make creams, and I figured out how to put them in chocolate. But what happens when I want to create something sorry, excuse me. What happens when I want to create something that I want to be put into bonbons? And what if I want to make really nice cocoa butter designed bonbons? And I want to make ganache, and I want to learn like true chocolatier recipes. And so when I told myself, okay, I got this part down, now I want to move into more pro, my chocolate teacher from the time, actually, I've only had her teach me things twice, and once was how to temper and make the chocolate, and the second time was how to work with polycarbonate molds, which are the molds that professional chocolatiers use. And that was it. That's all I've learned. Other than that, everything else has been self-taught and self-knowledge. So she said, get this book, and this book. And now I'm just diving, and every night before bed, I have a chapter of I read a chapter of these chocolate books, and they teach, okay, recipes, different sugars to use inside of ganache, how to cook ganache, the difference in cacao bean. There's so much in the chocolate world that I never really realized until I got into it. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, there is so much information. And now, just like you said, sorry, when you learn one thing, it opens the door to learn another thing. So now that I'm learning all these things about chocolates and ganaches and how to create a ganache and how to cook and what it meant to fill into my kitchen and all this stuff, now I'm like, maybe I also want to do pastry. So it's just this rolling ball of, I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to learn this and I want to learn that and I want to give my customers more and more items and so many yummy creations I want to come up with. And when you're in it already, you're like, this might pair well with this. This might pair well with that. And you just nonstop experimentation. And that's when I told myself also, I saw two of my favorite chocolatiers. It was kind of like a sign. I saw them having a master class in Sweden, and I told myself, I'm going to go. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to learn from my two favorites. And I literally immediately bought the course tickets and I bought the flight and everything. And I told myself, I'm going to go learn bonbon creation. I'm going to go learn ganache. And that's like my next step into the chocolate world. It's going to be creating beautiful bonbons. Yeah, it's just like this rolling snowball effect that just keeps going and going. And you want to learn, you want to learn, you want to create, and you want to offer, and give more and learn more. And that's where we're at right now. So next step is learning ganache creation.
Let me ask a question from a background, ethnic, whatever. However, do you have a Middle Eastern background?
I don't think it's Middle Eastern. I'm Armenian.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, Eurasian, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
you're Asian. Well,
Right.
you're an important part of the world, the Silk Road. So most of the food that transferred
Mhm.
around the world that we're responsible for today, that we often put in parts of the world, often actually came from other parts of the world. That would be like pasta in Italy, guys. That would be imported through the Silk Road from China, things like that. So that's one of the reasons I asked. I wondered if there was any influence there on it, because you do have such a natural talent for it. I think there's a lot of creativity. I think the ability to learn is there, and I've seen the reels on Instagram, and it comes so naturally to you. I particularly like the Willy Wonka one, if I remember correctly. I think that's one of the ones that attracted. But you're talking about doing things that didn't come from your background. You're talking about building a new business. You're talking about building e-commerce. We talked about the skills here. Let's talk about leading a team. Let's talk about building the website. Let's talk about all the things that have sort of happened at a very high pace, because this is all high pace. You're still finding time to read and grow and be creative. How are you managing all this? What's the mindset going on there? How do you keep going and not burn out? Things like that, because it is a lot at once or
It
quickly.
definitely is. I think I had to learn really fast how to manage all of these things at once. And I remember asking my husband, I was like, is it good that you're growing so fast that you have no idea what to do? And he's like, that is a good problem. And I absolutely agree. But just like you said, with growing really fast comes a lot of things. For example, there was things that I wanted to do for Christmas time and new flavors I wanted to get out, like holiday flavors that we just were so busy and there was so much going on all at once that I was not able to get out specific flavors. And I was like, you know what? Next year. And there's also just like the packaging. You have to get packaging in time, and it's if you're actually going to order from China, which is your most favorable option, it's going to take time, and then you're going to have to see a sample. A lot of delays, and I just had to really quickly wear many hats because in the beginning I was the one only making the chocolates, and it's really hard to find chocolatiers. And it's really hard to also train someone from A to Z when you're growing so quickly. So there was just a bunch of hats that had to be worn. Oh, I was the chocolate maker, I was the website designer, I was the packer and shipper, and all this stuff. And of course, my wonderful family members during that time. I never forget the amount of work they did for us and how much they helped me. But it was hard, be like, stay relevant, for example. So take out a new flavor, attract my customers, film content because content is everything nowadays and social media. Be able to film that content, be able to schedule it and post it, social media manager. There was all these different hats you had to wear. And I remember really stressing out in the beginning to the point that it was unhealthy. It was like my hair was falling out and all this stuff. And I lost a good 10 pounds. It was hard to navigate. But just like all things, when you find the puzzle pieces and you put them together, you're able to, really step back a little bit and understand, okay, now we can do this, now we can do that, okay, now we can take out new flavor, now we can hire a social media manager. And that's basically how everything fell into place over time. I Once I hired my team, it was like, okay, while they work, I could work on the website, or okay, while they work, I could have the social media girl come in and film. And well, I told myself, you know what? I do need a day in the week for myself where I can reboot and reset. And it's really hard when you're an entrepreneur. You're chasing, like I always say, it's like I'm in a never ending rat race. I'm always chasing, chasing, chasing. It's hard to step back for a second and look at your vision and be like, you know what? We need to take a break here and we need to do this in order to come back stronger. And that's what ended up happening. I took a step back and I told myself there's one day in the week where I'm just going to literally do nothing so my brain can relax. And that was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because I always feel like I want to be in overdrive and I want to do this and I want to do that and I want to take out a new flavor and I want to get this packaging and all this stuff. But that one day where I've given myself off to reset has really helped me come back stronger the day after and lay out my ideas better. And when you're a stressed person or you're a stressed boss, your team definitely feels it. And the last thing I ever want to do is put that type of pressure on my team, because I remember when my team came in, they were like, oh yeah, at this chocolate shop, when he was stressed, like this owner was stressed, he would put all that stress on us and he would stress us out and he would like freak out and yell and we would all freak out. And I was like, that's not the type of person I want to be. I want my team to come to me when something goes wrong and know like I'll be able to handle it with utmost, patience and logic rather than freaking out. So that one day where I get to step back, that's what I've done. I take a day, I step back, I reset, I reboot, I come back stronger. And that's helped a lot. But yeah, over time, I just knew, okay, now we can do this and we could do that and we could put this person here and this person can make the chocolates and this person can be the packaging girl and this person can be our driver, and everything has like a step by step to it now, which I think is the biggest help, because when everything's in a mumbo jumbo, you have no idea what's going on. But yeah, I would say patience and experience is exactly what sets you up for that type of success and organization.
Yeah, I'm going to anchor this big time. I love this, but we're going to talk about organization. We're going to talk about the journey, and then I'm going to anchor it back to your lifestyle, you being a lifestyle blogger. We're going to just take this full circle, but I'm going to take the audience on a little journey. Okay. Let's talk about chocolate. Let's talk about this idea, sweets in general. Okay. In Europe, prior to Christopher Columbus, chocolate had never hit Europe or a majority of the world. It was something isolated to the South Americas, okay, particularly Mexico, South America, those type of areas. And it's very bitter, okay. At the time, it's used as medicine. I can't even say the word this afternoon. I don't even know what time it is. Oh man. But let's just really talk about this. The first cacao trees, they were actually domesticated into agriculture over 5,000 years ago in Ecuador. Okay, the reason I know this is because I've been recently doing a lot of research on chocolate in general, in the health properties, and I'm really going to anchor a lot of this. There's going to be a lot compacted into this statement, guys, that I'm about to make, and one of them is, sometimes eating healthier is not getting rid of things. It's just finding things that are produced more holistically. Okay. And that's part of this episode that we're going to get into. And I'm anchoring it now for the audience to leap the second half of our conversation. But the reason I'm going to say this, okay, 5,000 years ago-ish, 6,000 years ago, around northern South America, the cacao trees are domesticated. Okay. It's used for medicine. It has good properties. It's bitter like a darker chocolate. You can see the percentage, if it were all cacao, what that might look like, how bitter that might be. But let's talk about in a thing you have thousands of years of domesticating these trees, okay? Over years, learning them, they're there. Spaniards come along. They bring these this chocolate, the cacao, which chocolate, I believe, stands for like bitter food or bitter drink. I can't totally remember. I just learned about this, but something like that. So the way that they translated it, chocolate, it into Spanish was something like bitter, because at the time it was bitter. It wasn't sweet, the bitter-ish. And there's still a lot of health properties in it. It's an important part of our diet. It helps with stress, things like that. I want to emphasize that for everyone, but we're talking about a history. It gets introduced to Europe. There, between the European model and then innovation that's happening through machinery and innovation and industrialization from the Europeans and South America, you have two areas that are starting to fully develop chocolate in a lot of ways, okay? On an artisanal level, not what we think of in the United States, because we industrialize things, we build things big, we scale things. So chocolate for us became very industrialized very quickly in our history, So I want to emphasize that for everyone. But on the other side of it, there's these long traditions. I think the first time they encountered chocolate was early 1500s. So somewhere around there, they develop it into what it is today. But it wasn't industrialized. It was very, what we're talking about here right now, a lot of love, a lot of energy, a lot of natural ingredients, shorter shelf life, so it could be enjoyed in the moment, not saved for later. Saving for later came along, guys, in war. There's no other purpose, and it just became a natural thing for us to make more money in our grocery stores and as food entrepreneurs. The real reason it happened is because it needed extended shelf life at war to keep our troops alive from starvation without having to cook and produce food and it go bad and mold on a daily basis, and figure out how to do that in the trenches of Europe. Okay, that's why. Or in a submarine or wherever, or on a ship. So that's that. Okay. That way they didn't need to be resupplied all the time. They could balance out fresh and whatever. But the important part here is that chocolate, sweets, this artisanal thing, it is a big deal, and it is coming back on a global scale. The art of it. Go on social media, look at it. It's one of the appealing things I think about Velve is we're talking cutting edge here, and we're talking creativity, and we're talking the art of chocolate making. There is an apprenticeship, there is a teaching, and there is also a mastery. And then there is just a whole other creative side, which we're talking about here is not only the ability to teach it, but the ability to quote unquote manipulate it and create things that are yours and yours alone.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
let's talk about your lifestyle change, because this kind of comes out of nowhere. It is something you do. You talk about other people's lifestyles or other things people create, but now you've created something yourself. How does that change your life? How does it change from, I would say, something less tangible like social media, internet, creating things like that, to now something more tangible with an inventory? How's your life change last 6 months?
Yeah, it's been a very crazy 6 months. I think the fastest growth was in the first four, especially. It's crazy because now, you're operating a whole kitchen, whereas, I never really knew what a kitchen was prior to all this. So learning about having the correct equipment, the correct food handling, and all of this stuff, that's all new and it hits you all at once. There's the organization. So there is, for example, there's organizing, the packaging and getting all this packaging sorted out, or organizing all of our ingredients in our kitchen. And that's like the physical, like, work environment, having, temperature controlled room. And on top of that, having a temperature and humidity controlled fridges, freezers to store chocolate, learning how to store chocolate correctly. That's a whole different world. So it's all this stuff all at once. And then it's like, okay, now you have to think of like the scaling and growth part of all of it. And okay, what are we doing with our social media? How are we relevant? How are we keeping up with competitors? How are we branding ourselves as different? How are we all these questions of like, we need to really be out there. We need to be in people's eyes, and we need to get that type of attention in order to be able to scale and grow. And so it's a never ending, okay, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do that. So adjusting to that and having just a physical business now, also inventory, right? And since we don't really have super shelf stable stuffed bars, it's like, okay, we can make the cream, for example, on Monday, and the cream can last until Friday's orders, and that's it. If there's anything that's left over or whatever, we must either find a way to sell it, or we, have to dump it out because you don't want it to spoil and you don't want to give customers any, that's bad. So they don't want to give them spoiled cream and this and that. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's like, okay, how many boxes do we need to ship out? Are all those boxes ready? Are the labels printed? So it's way more hands-on, and your life completely changes. And now it's like, if before I was able to have like a non-inventory based business where I was able to, run it from any part of the world or go somewhere and not worry about it, that's not the case anymore. So I have to adjust to all these, life changes. And it really does, something that people don't talk about too much, is how much your life changes via your close relationships as well, and how you have to balance work and life. And it's hard to balance when you're an entrepreneur and basically work is all the time. It could happen anytime, anywhere. My customers can email me, I don't know, at around 5 p.m. and I mean, of course, I don't have to get back to them that day, but what I'm trying to say is, like, the business is always running, it's always moving, and there's always something, especially with social media nowadays. It's like somebody finds something on Instagram, hey, what's the price for this? Hey, how can I order? And this and that. So there's a lot of moving parts that you just have to adjust your life to. And for example, let's say there's, just throwing this out there, destination wedding over the weekend in Mexico, and you have to get up and you got to go. Well, what happens when your local pickups are on Sunday and Saturday, and you have to prepare those on Friday, and you have to have them there on Sunday? So now we got to work a little more interestingly, and separate those days correctly, make sure all the products get out, make sure they're fresh enough, and who's going to get it to the store, and who's going to run the, like, giving out of the orders. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I think the hardest thing to figure out is the work life balance. And a lot changes when you have a business that's just always on the go. um I think, yeah, that's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. The one of the things I want to emphasize here, I think, is the willingness to do it, for a door to open, and having the courage and the strength and the belief in oneself to walk through it, the support system to do it. Let's talk a little bit about that. You mentioned family help before hiring everyone and starting to build a team. Let's talk about your support system. Let's talk about the strength of that, the importance to you, because you've touched upon it a few times, which for me means there's meaning to it for you, and it has helped build your business.
Absolutely. These are, this is the people who are basically your fans when you didn't have any, or they're your, unquote, customers when you didn't have any. They were your employees before you had any. They're the ones who really believed in, my vision, and were saying, you know what, this stuff is good. You definitely can do it. You definitely can push it. And my husband, specifically, absolute gem. He is the one behind all of the genius creative branding that we've done together. He's the one who even came up with the name Velve. We work perfectly together. We are a creative powerhouse when we're together. It's like me the flavors, him the boxes. Let's make the box like this. Hey, Knopfstead was his idea. Knock your Biscoff was mine. The Telling, like, we always bounce off of each other. So the creativity and bar at which the creativity has been set to would not have existed without him. And then there is my parents and my in-laws. My mom actually is the one who bought me my first melter to melt my chocolate in, back when I didn't even have a melter. And she was like, you know what, this is my good luck gift to you. And my in-law came over and they filled the chocolates when, just my husband and I were not enough, and we pulled all-nighters together. My sister was my first employee. She was the one who created our bonbons. So there are so many people who really helped pick up Velve, that if, they weren't there to do it. I don't know if I would have been able to do it alone. So they were my very first team, and I value that a lot. I value my family a lot. I value my friends a lot. My friends came, my friends helped whenever it was necessary. A lot of people, and the support was very overwhelming. And honestly, if it wasn't for them to keep me pushing through, especially the hard days, I don't know if I would have been able to really motivate myself through those days if it wasn't for them.
Absolutely. I'm going to quick anchor entrepreneurship and creativity and compounding legacy here. We touched upon it a little bit, but what we're really talking about here, guys, on many different levels is we're talking about first the Mayans' ingenuity as a civilization and an empire to take chocolate and spread it to Aztecs and through all the way up into North America. Parts of North America did in fact have chocolate, but it came from that northern part of South America, or what's today we call South America. And there was ingenuity along the way, mixing it with different things. The entrepreneurs, the ingenuity of the individuals involved already started creating things. Cocoa butter, just by natural of mixing it with water or turning it into some sort of liquid or mixing it with a liquid and bouncing around, you can create cocoa butter, for example. No different than milk bouncing around in a camel sack or whatever in Europe. So there were benefits to it and things that were being created from it that led to ingenuity. Then you get into Europe and you have the creation of chocolatiers and independence and entrepreneurial freedom that chocolate creates. Okay, that we now do. Then there's the meshing of what's a South American product, chocolate, a European renaissance that's going on at the time, and ingenuity with food as well as art and everything else, and all this food being dropped into Europe from all around the world, particularly from companies like the East and West Indie trading companies out of the Netherlands. And so the entrepreneurs benefit again. It lifts them up. Okay. You get into the United States, we can talk about Mars, Hershey, so on and so forth, more chocolate, more entrepreneurs, more building of jobs. Okay, so when we think about where we are right now, even as entrepreneurs and even getting started as a business, the fact of not starting should not even be an option, because we don't know the legacy that could possibly be created of us starting just at the beginning. You think the guy who domesticated the first cocoa tree thought of the impact 5,000 years later, the jobs it would create, the happiness it would produce? I don't know. But it certainly did do something in the legacy created by that first planting of the tree, analogy intended, matters. So let's talk a little bit about, as we start to do this, let's talk about building a brand. You talked about working through it with your husband, the color scheme, the boxing, the packaging. It's a long way to go in a short period of time. It takes a long time for some companies to get out of, or companies, entrepreneurs to get out of our own way. I've been there to do something like that. You guys have moved quickly. So let's talk about boxing. Let's talk about presentation. Let's talk about marketing it. Let's talk about the social media piece. You've done all of it. It is part of your background, but let's anchor it against your brand to help grow the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a part of my background. I was always in content creation for other brands as like sort of a micro influencer for all things beauty. I was like a beauty influencer, whether it was makeup, it was skincare, just lifestyle in general, maybe health and fitness. But dabbling into chocolate and chocolate content was not something I had ever done before. And what really helped me, and I think people really overlook this part specifically, what really helped me actually grow was the authenticity of who I was. So, for example, I took my audience, whether even if it was in my stories and it's in my highlights on my personal page, I took my audience through this journey of, hey, we're building this brand together. Like, we're doing it together. I want to show you what it really takes to scale a brand and to grow a brand, and all the stuff that happened along the way and all the, the misfortunes and things that can get in the way. And so that's what I did. I have a video specifically, I think my personal profile, where it's the very first time I wore my apron and I got my apron branded for the company. And I put creating a core memory because it was the very first time. So I took my audience, yeah, I took my audience through that and I said, I showed everything. I hired a chocolate teacher today because I didn't know how to do this. Guys, I failed for 4 hours not being able to temper chocolate. I just ordered my new thing. And even in my stories today, I put on my personal page, I put doing my very first podcast interview. And I take my audience along for the journey. One very specific moment that I took everybody on board with me was I get our pistachio cream imported from Italy. And for 3 months, I struggled to be able to get that pallet here. And I took them along for that ride. When it finally came, I filmed the pallet being unloaded, like everything. Oh, today was a hard day. This. By the way, our quality is top notch because, well, we get our chocolate from here. We get our pistachio cream from here. This specific chocolate bar is only 2-3 ingredients and it's gluten free. Like I walk them along with, oh, today I'm creating a recipe. I failed at making 3 ganaches. Yada yada yada. Like everything is always, I include my customer base inside it. That really makes them, I think the most important thing is like having an emotional connection with the person or the brand you're supporting. You have a purpose for supporting that person. Oh my gosh, wow, this person did all this work to get here. You know what? I think I'm going to support them then XYZ. And I think that's really important to show your customers also that you care. So I also forgot to say consistency is one of the number one things for social media. It's like I notice if we post, let's say 3 times a week versus none at all, for example, our sales drop. And the thing with that is, just like you said in the beginning, it's the eye always sees. Let's say if the eye always sees Velve Chocolate, the eye is going to want to try Velve Chocolate. And that's something really important too. And you got to stay relevant as well. There's market research that needs to be done, and what's popular amongst our audience. Well, who is our audience first and foremost? You have to decide who your target audience is, what age they would be, how much money they would be willing to spend, how they look, what their everyday lifestyle is like, why would they want to buy from you? Is it because of the taste, or is the taste and the way the package looks, and so on and so forth? You put all of that down, and when you have consistency and you have authenticity, and you engage with your customers and you give them giveaways and you give them discount codes and you give them collaborations with, let's say, food bloggers and other influencers, I think that's what exactly helps your brand really grow. And that's how you can market successfully to your audience.
Let's talk about getting comfortable in front of your phone, in front of a camera, in front of that, because you did that first before you became the food entrepreneur piece. I think that's a valuable piece in personal branding and building a business. And literally in the episode before this, guys, we talk about this. It's weird the way the episodes kind of line up. I don't do it. God does it for sure. Someone other than me, that's for sure, because I'm not smart enough to line things up the way they happen sometimes. And or intentful, or within that intent, I should say, or with trying to deliver the message. Sometimes the message just comes. This is one of them. But personal branding, getting comfortable as an entrepreneur, as part of your brand, it's the world we live in now. Without it, our brands don't have as much bite. They don't have as much longevity. They don't stick around as long. Think about mascots or characters for McDonald's or your favorite cartoons or cereals. But not only is there a mascot to the brand, but there also has to be the entrepreneur leading the journey, because we live in a world of transparency and a world that's flattening in terms of information and transparency. It's not as complicated or as layered. So let's talk about that, getting comfortable in front of the camera, getting comfortable as a blogger, being comfortable revealing good, bad, whatever to the world, because you talk about failures as well as successes and sharing them.
Absolutely. And In my case, I was always a very social person. I always loved the camera. It was a little different for me because I was able to easily adjust. But even in that sense, let's say if you have to attach someone, just like you said, McDonald's, and they had their mascots and everything. You have to attach some sort of face to the brand to represent. And that's, I think, so important who you choose if it's not yourself to be able to do that, because people, you just like you said, it's the world we live in. People love to connect with people. If you just put product out there, and here's the crazy thing, the engagement stats on my videos are always better when I'm in my videos. When I'm in the video and I'm talking about something, or I'm even doing something funny, or I'm pouring chocolate, when it's human to human interaction, it's it performs a lot better, and the engagement difference is just crazy. And I guess that's because people want to, just like I was mentioning, people want to feel connected to something. And let's be real, how connected can you be to like objects, or let's say a chocolate bar, as you would be to the person who is telling the story? And in regard to the failures and stuff, that's a good humbling it's a humbling moment. It's a moment of humility that you put out there. And there are some days where you don't feel your best, you don't really want to get up there and record a video of yourself, or my hair is not done, my makeup doesn't look good, or I don't feel comfortable in my skin today, or I don't know, I have a pimple on my face, whatever it may be. For everybody it would be a different reason. Honestly, my personal advice to that would be, people are not noticing what you're noticing. People are not going to be as hard on you as you are on you. And you know what? If they are, there's so many haters in the world. So if they're not hating on you for that, they'll hate on something else. So I would just say, focus on your vision and focus on your goal. And you kind of have to motivate yourself to do whatever it is that you don't want to do that day. It's like, yeah, maybe one day you wake up, you're so tired, you don't want to make the chocolate. But when you keep that end goal in mind, then you do whatever it takes, and you have like that tunnel vision. And to get in front of a camera and be comfortable, if someone is a super shy or closed off person, that they do want to be the face of their brand, my personal advice would be, just talk to yourself on the camera, get comfortable in your own skin, take random videos, of yourself, and try to slowly start building, that confidence up, because no one is going to work as hard for your brand than you are. And no one's going to be able to sell that type of knowledge that you have for whatever it is you are promoting than you will. And over time, you'll, start to build that confidence and feel more comfortable in your own skin. And honestly, there's only one you. And I know that's a very cliche quote, but there's only one you, and that is your superpower. So don't let like that negative emotion, we're all human, so we all feel it, but don't let that get the best of you, because whatever is your bigger picture, that's your purpose.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think for me, I'm saying this, and I'm just like the podcast business, always try to have the businesses lead, didn't want to take away from the businesses or the employees behind them as the leader. So as I discovered the necessity, and it was uncomfortable for sure, from, am I taking credit away from the employees? Am I taking credit away from those individuals? But then as life goes up and down, as it does, and recreates us and repurposes us, as we've also talked about on this show indirectly, the thing that happened is I became, let me rephrase this for the audience. I think this is a better way to construct it. I don't mind being on camera. I don't mind doing all the things and being quote unquote face of a company. I just don't want to have to speak about it. So fine, you're known, fine, you're leading, someone else in the company go be the face of it. That was my attitude. I didn't want to do it. You can look at me, you can say whatever, but the introverted part of me, like why sports worked is because I didn't have to talk. But did I like being front and center or part of this team and everyone's eyes focused? For sure, right? It's just the repurposing in life, the needing to, the realization, the having to go a different direction and build something, and then put your name behind it to build the credibility to build it. That's where life becomes interesting. And we're talking about that in this episode. We're talking about building the character first and then using the character to build a business. Okay. The podcast for me was not building the character and then it was not building the podcast and then building the character, while character has been significantly built during the podcast for sure, because I grew just by the interactions I have. The main part is that I used my character to build the business in the first place, and then the character went through like a terrible, crazy, weird transition because I definitely, like, as businesses changed, I changed, my dynamic changed, how I do business changed, how I grow humans changed quite a bit over the last decade, definitely since I've been 30. And so those things change for us. And for the audience, that's what we've seen here, someone that built a personal brand but is strong enough in their character to then go build other things that build jobs, that build lives, that also build lifestyles for others.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to touch on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, please do.
I was going to say people like to see. Here's something like you said it was making chocolate or watching chocolate videos is such a like aesthetic thing, and it's so pleasant to watch, and that's something that people like to see too. What it takes to be an entrepreneur in X business, what it takes to be an entrepreneur in Y business, the struggles you go through. And Faceless worked for a while for people, but it just doesn't perform as well or sell as well as when you actually put yourself out there, because there's something that people look forward to and connect to. So when you're giving it a little bit more of a personable touch, people are like, okay, this is what it takes. And people support you for the things that you're going through and the things and the effort that you're putting. And for example, people buy my chocolates because they say, we see what the effort you put in, the quality you put in. I post a 4 a.m. post. I post all right, we're up at 5 a.m. We're going to go source out some raspberries to give you guys the best raspberries. Oh, by the way, we dip our strawberries in chocolate the day of. It's always made fresh. And that's what really people are like, wow, that's what it takes, to run Velve Chocolate. It takes this. Oh, to be able to put that cream in the bar. Damn, she has to cook it X amount of hours prior. And that's what people relate to. And that's what people want to support. People want to support your hard work. So there's nothing, bad about posting or showing the work that it takes to get to where you are.
Yeah, I think, and I'm going to emphasize this, and I'm going to try to do it in a way that doesn't make it seem like a false idol in any way. But in everything for me that's done, I'm glorifying God. Like whatever I do, whatever I'm done, however I do it, I need to do a better job in a lot of cases. So I'm always reflecting. But let me anchor this for the audience. It has to be done with obsession, a meticulous obsession to detail at the very beginning. And is it going to hurt? And are you going to feel like you're really your biggest enemy during those times because you're being hard on yourself, trying to meticulously and obsessively get it right? Are you going to feel like you're being hard on others by your obsessive detail? Like, God, I'm really asking them to do it a 9th time to redo the mock-up. I know maybe I'm being a little jerk. Maybe I'm being obsessive. It's still important, guys. Why? Because if it's not done now, it's so much harder to do later to fix the mistakes. So why is that important? The obsession now, early on in the businesses, the getting it right, the building the proper foundation has to be there. Let's give another example historically, since I feel like I'm doing history. When God gave laws in the Old Testament, one of the most important things in those laws is the underlying food safety laws. Anyone who's been in food and done Serve Safe really goes and reads them, you'll understand how some of those laws, you're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't mix raw meat from one animal with cooked meat of another animal. So there's things like that, like we pay attention to. It's important. We understand the context of it. Back to us, it's like, that's kind of weird. Why did we need all these laws? Well, it's the foundation of civilization. It's also before we had science that they were necessary for humans to live and prosper. Without humans living and prospering and health, they can't procreate at any large rate that's successful. Important. Okay. So why am I saying this? It's the same here in a lot of ways. Historically, we compound information, and information gets better through learning, through hardships, through doing the entrepreneurial journey. So sharing it, the lessons learned, I think, is important. We've seen unlikely heroes amongst all stories throughout history. They're mostly unlikely humans. Why is that? Well, is it because it gives hope to unlikely humans? No, it's also because unlikely humans have done it. And that's also where we're talking about here is that inspiration, motivation. I a little bit lost my train of thought, guys, on the first piece, and I apologize, but I want to talk about ingredients, sourcing ingredients. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So you're sourcing ingredients, you're importing things, you're trying to source the best of the best to make your ingredients lead up to and be compounded into the best product. And this, I'm sort of circling around where I was before, but this is the meticulous things I'm talking about to be an entrepreneur, the obsession, guys. It's not, it goes all the way down to even the ingredients, even the boxes, even the social media, even being willing to fail and be meticulous at doing it better or looking at the stats, or here's even a better one, having the obedience to stay in the uncomfortability where the stats don't move. And in fact, maybe even get worse a couple months in because all of a sudden the newness is gone. Those are the things we're talking about here. So meticulous in doing the job and doing it well, because once it's done right, it's trainable, it's measurable, it's scalable. Okay, so let's talk about ingredients because I think this is a perfect segue because you are that meticulous in those ingredients. So let's talk about sourcing. How do you source internationally? How did you find the stuff that you need? Because it's not easy to find the high quality ingredients that you're turning into your chocolate bars or covered fruit, etc. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with our, I'm going to start with the most toughest one we had to deal with, and that was the pistachio cream. I don't even know how I decided this was going to be the pistachio cream in the beginning. I just saw it. And of course, I have this knack for doing like picking the most difficult things ever. And of course, it was a pistachio cream that, is only sold in Italy, and it actually comes from Sicily, and it gets only distributed to very, very large brands here. And what they do is they resell it on Amazon in smaller quantities for like double, triple the price. And I told myself, I don't want to do that. I used large quantities of this at a time, and it was the pistachio cream that had the most pistachio content. So, if I think general audience and public do not know that most pistachio creams actually only include anywhere from like 8 to 28% pistachios. I think that number could even go lower, honestly, lower than 8. And the rest is good oils and emulsifiers and powders and other nut butters because, well, pistachios are expensive. So there isn't really, I don't think jarred, or maybe there is 100% pistachio cream, but pistachios are also very bitter. So it does help when you have a milk powder in there, and people usually in pistachio creams mix white chocolate to give it some sort of sweetness flavor, because I whip up like just pure pistachio butter and it does not taste that great, I'm gonna be honest. So I found the pistachio cream, and the pistachio cream actually had 45% pistachios in there, which is the highest content I've been able to find. That's not 100% and tastes really bitter. So I got in contact with this company in Italy, and I told them, hey, I want pallets and I want larger quantities than just these jars that people are selling triple price. And they run you down. They're like, okay, I need to know your company. You have physical address. You have to show us your sales. We have to know that you're not going to take it and like resell it. And we went through this full mumbo jumbo. And finally, I was able to get it here. It was hard. We went back and forth for 3 months because there was a really awful import company. Anyway, one of the many delays of running a business. It eventually came here. So that's how I sourced it. But also, I didn't want to be one of those people that only used just 45% pistachio cream in a pistachio chocolate bar. So what I did was I developed our own pistachio butter as well on the side, which is just 100% like roasted pistachios, also from Italy, Sicilian. I roast myself and I whip into this butter, which is just pure pistachio and just organic, like a bit of organic avocado oil. And I add it to our cream along with a few other ingredients that makes our food like super unique. And that adds the pistachio content and doesn't make it only 45%. It makes it somewhere around like 65 to 70. So there's a good amount of pistachio content in our pistachio bar. And then that's the pistachio and the pistachio cream. We source our flour from France, so the cakes that go in our chocolate bars that I bake from scratch. Those are imported from France. The kataifi we use is from Canada, and the milks and creams we use are from Greece. It's really important to me to have rich flavor in our bars, which is why I usually outsource and like I import everything because I'm very picky, just like you said, the perfectionism. This is where it comes in. It has to taste very high quality for me to be able to sell it to my customers. And even wait, what's it called? The orange blossom syrup and the rose syrup and everything. It's from the Middle East. Comes from Middle East, Lebanon. So it's very important to me to have the authentic flavors be present, especially in specific authentic bars like Hasta La Vista. Like it should come from a Middle Eastern location. It's very important to me and like my ethics and values to have very high quality tasting chocolate. And even our raspberries, I use organic raspberries. And on top of that, there's one product I'm forgetting, but it'll come back to me. Our chocolate, specifically our chocolate, it is a French chocolate that we use. We use a mix of French and Belgian chocolate, and the way they get their cacao and their cacao beans are ethically sourced. There is fair wage. That's very important to me. Everything is halal and kosher. And the French company actually uses the three different types of cacao you can find and get from the beans. They use all three different and they put it into a blend. So it's very important to me because just like you said, the way you start and the way you put everything set in stone is the way it continues. And these are all very important values to me. And there are things a lot of people in other chocolate companies overlook, which is where I'm proud to say I've been able to stand out. And again, not to give me like a hero look, like you said, all glory is to God. And I think if it wasn't for God and all of the blessings and the knowledge and path that He has paved for me, I would not be where I am today.
Amazing. Anything that I didn't talk about that you want to talk about? And I really want to invite you to be on the show again because I have questions I didn't get to ask you. So I definitely love if you signed up for another one. But let's talk about anything that maybe I didn't talk about, where they can find you online, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are getting everything we do is from our website. It's Velve Chocolate, VELVE chocolate.com. We ship nationwide. We're working on opening international shipping. It's a little hard with the shelf life of our chocolates and there's only so much ice can do. So we ship nationwide and we ship with overnight or 2-day shipping just to ensure like the highest quality in the bars. We also have a TikTok shop. Again, that spells chocolate. You could find us on TikTok shop. And then we're working on opening our Instagram shop as well. That's where we sell. As far as local listeners in Los Angeles, we do local deliveries as well through our website, and we do local pickups as well. All information is on the website for days and times. And what was I gonna say? Also local, there we go. Local people in Glendale, California, we supply Papillon Bakery. It's a bakery here. They have, I believe, 3 or 4 locations. They carry our Knopf Zed bars. And we also have a collaboration with them with inside of what is called Ponchik. I forgot to mention this. So this bakery owner, she wanted to, but she puts a lot of stuff in her ponchiks, and what ponchiks are, it's a Polish dessert. It came from Poland, and it's like vanilla custard filled dough balls that get fried She put like Nutella in them, she put Snickers in them, she put Oreos in them. And then she wanted to do the Dubai chocolate version. And so she tried 20 different sellers' bars, and she ultimately ended up picking ours. And now we supply up to 1,000 to 4,000 bonbons a week for her to put in those bon cheeks. And that's the Dubai chocolate bon cheek. And she also orders like anywhere from 100 to 150 bars a week of our Knopfed bars that she also sells in her bakery. And there's a few things I can talk about, but hopefully the next time I'm on, I can officially announce. But it has to do with large supermarkets. So there's a lot of great things coming to Velve Chocolate that I'm very, thankful and proud of. And I'm proud of my family. I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful to God. And I'm thankful to my amazing team and amazing people like you who value the things we do and, share it with the world.
Yeah, amazing. I love what we talked about today. I think it's huge for the audience just to, you know, realize what is out there, what the options are, that anything's possible. We just got to be open-minded to it and be willing to aggressively seek it. And that includes the education piece. We've talked a lot about things and I haven't anchored it like this, but guys, it takes the energy, meaning I have purpose. I don't know always what it is, but I do know that I'm collecting skills along the way for that purpose. So that's energy. There's an energy there, a momentum, but that momentum has to have direction, and that requires education and getting experience and then exposure to the world. We're talking about all those things in this episode. We're not just talking about, okay, educating oneself on what we do. Then she's gaining experience, Diana, even though I'm talking with her about her also in what she's doing, the chocolate itself, the items, and then it's exposing herself to more and different items outside of just chocolate to diversify her business and herself and her skills. Why is that important? Because being a one-trick pony as a food business is never good. If you just are in the cookie business, only doing cookies isn't good. If Petridge Farms only stuck to whole wheat bread, we wouldn't have Petridge Farms cookies. If she, the entrepreneur that started that business, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, anyway, trying to help her son having allergies and symptoms and all sorts of problems with food, to turn it into a business, name it after the family farm, then get around the whole wheat boom when white bread was proving, before we enriched it, proving to be malnutrition for the things. It's that pursuit, guys. It's that consistency. It's that open-mindedness. It's that willingness to provide a solution that we're talking about here, and getting that exposure. And then by nature of the energy of running us in that direction, we gain a lot of things. So they're all contributing factors. So thank you, Diana, for anchoring all that for us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Everyone in the audience, share the episode, follow the entrepreneurs, follow it. What's the other social medias? Again, there's the Velve, but there's your personal one, Diana Diaries, I believe.
Yep, that's a completely branded name to it's the Diana Diaries. It's the Diana with two N's Diaries, and that's that's like where my personable brand started all the way from the beginning, because I was like, what would my life be called? And I was like, how about the Diaries of my life? And called it the Diana Diaries, and that's how that started too.
Yeah, it's amazing. The seed that was planted there, the foresight, the just preparing for where you are now. It's not something you can argue, and I'm glad I get to bear witness to it. So thank you again, everyone in the audience.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Guys, continue to
Justin,
share.
After this phone call, I would love to get your address, because I want to ship some chocolates out for you to try.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that very much. And, I encourage everyone in the audience to try what's going on here. Again, we're talking about a lot of entrepreneurial activity right now around the future of food, around we had a dark period in life, whether it was short or not, doesn't differ in that we had one, and that there's a very enlightened period that's coming out of it, from an energy, from a spirituality, from an emotions, from a growth standpoint for humans, and that has a lot in food. That emotion, that energy comes out in food, and it's everywhere. We eat everywhere. So the entrepreneurs that are starting to lead this pack, this next evolution, I'll call, in food and in the entrepreneur and the restaurateur, is very much around these things that we're talking about, this show business, the building that show business piece into my personal character, that character being holistically who I am. And if I'm working on that character, being open about it. And so those are the things that we're talking about here. Why? Because businesses do the same thing. They go through the same evolutions. They go through the same issues, right? So the better we navigate them as individuals, the better we can lead our businesses through them. And the humans, we rely on growing our businesses through them as well. That's why we see what's going on right now, the ability to navigate the situation, the growth, the support system, having that, all of it matters, guys. So it's not, we can't do it on our own. There isn't just me in entrepreneurship, even the guy or person or girl creating the idea. It takes fellowship. It takes time. It takes energy, and it takes that open-mindedness, that the skills that we are being built don't always lead to the direction in which we're being built or we think we're being built. So if anyone told me I'd be on a podcast spreading my voice and doing this, I would have thought they were out of their mind. I'm a guy who grew up on a farm. I like tangible things. I like accomplishing things I can see. That's why releasing an episode every other day is easier for me, because it's something to do every day almost. But that consistency matters for me. So it matters for you guys too. It really does. Even in the failures, even consistently doing it over and over again, no matter where you are in your life or in your journey, if you really want to do it and it's really something you're passionate about, just keep working at it and you'll find a place. And it may not lead to that exact thing that I'm talking about, but it will lead to something better. So thank you, Diana, again. Thank you, audience. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all the love. The love's right back at you. And thank you for sharing and supporting all the entrepreneurs. We're out.